Thank you, Mr President. I seek leave to make a brief explanation before asking a question to the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs about Aboriginal affairs.
Is leave granted? Leave is granted. The Honourable Mrs Henderson.
On Tuesday during question time, the Minister said the referendum and the state voice are two very, very separate issues, and that the referendum at the weekend was about constitutional change, where the question put at the referendum was, and I quote, "a proposed law to alter the Constitution to recognise the First Peoples of Australia by establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice." As you noted on Tuesday, the State First Nations Voice Act amended our state constitution to include the First Nations voice.
Point of order. I'll listen to your point of order.
Mr President, I don't believe you noted anything on Tuesday.
Sorry?
I don't believe you noted anything on Tuesday, Mr President.
Questions are referred through me, but obviously the question is to the Attorney-General. Continue, please.
As the Minister noted on Tuesday, the State First Nations Voice Act amended our state constitution to include the First Nations voice. Minister, how is the emphatic 64.8% no vote in a direct question referendum not a clear indication that South Australians do not support a voice to Parliament?
Attorney-General.
I'm happy, sir, to repeat what I said earlier in this week. The question that was before the Australian people at the referendum, I'm disappointed didn't succeed, but that was a question about changing the Australian Constitution. The point has been made, and I certainly had people at a polling booth, both pre-poll and on the day, talk to me that they supported both the idea of recognition of the oldest living culture on the planet in our Constitution and also the idea of establishing a voice, but they didn't want to change our Constitution. That is a very, very different proposal, and as people have said to me, the only way we could change it again is through another vote of the people. As disappointed as I am, I recognise that that was the will of the Australian people. As I've said, we have a very different proposition in South Australia. We've created something by legislation. Of course, everything that we've done in South Australia could be changed by legislation again. And I might just also make a little bit of commentary, seeing that the honourable member referred to questions that were asked on Tuesday. I would suggest the honourable member and some other members of the opposition might reflect on how they conducted themselves in this chamber on Tuesday. So we had dozens of senior elders from right around South Australia, Aboriginal elders who have committed their lives to improving their Aboriginal communities in the chamber. In the chamber here on Tuesday, sir. The way I've had a lot of feedback from a lot of those elders wondering about the way those on the other side conducted themselves. I completely accept the rough and tumble of what we do here leads to interjections, but I think the unedifying way that members of the opposition in particular conducted themselves on Tuesday did them no favours. I think with so many important people in the chamber who've made past commentary on the behaviour that happened, I would hope that members opposite might reflect a little on that. It is not every day that we have such esteemed people in the chamber, and to treat their feelings with such contempt has been commented upon quite a number of times. And it hasn't always been the case, sir, that we've seen this sort of contempt for issues in Aboriginal affairs and for Aboriginal leadership. For many, many years, improving the disadvantaged people face had been a bipartisan endeavour in this state. I think back to my time involved in politics, to people such as Dean Brown, who was Minister for Aboriginal Affairs in the government prior to the Mike Grant government. I think of people who've held portfolio areas in Aboriginal affairs from the Liberal Party, people like Dr Duncan McFetridge. You yourself, sir, who had responsibility for some time for Aboriginal affairs. Ministers in the previous government, like the Honourable Michelle Lensink, our former colleague, the Honourable Stephen Wade, who conducted themselves in such a manner that gave them a great deal of credibility and respect in much of the Aboriginal community. I think it's a pity what was descended to it on Tuesday, and I certainly hope that members might reflect on how they conducted themselves.